All right, you guys remember last year's offseason, right? Right? People having debates about whether or not the Texans would have 3 1,000-yard receivers or what have you. Everybody's eyes were a little too big for their stomachs. We had this dream about having the greatest show on turf underneath a occasionally retracting dome, and it didn't work. So this year, I want competence. I want credible offensive line play. Not incredible offensive line play. I want credible, if you give me mediocre and build on that, then I'll be cool with it. The moves the Texans have made so far do not inspire excitement or salivation or anything like that. But there are a couple guys in Ed Ingram, which is a bit of a project. I think he's an advanced version of Kenyon Green. Laken Tomlinson, the guard that they signed in free agency, there's something there. Now, he's past his better years. He was a Pro Bowler in 2021, hasn't been the same since then. He is an upgrade over, just by way of reminding you of the last couple years versus one Quinnen Williams. And I won't even show you the play where CJ got injured. Just pick any random snap against the New York Jets, and Quinnen Williams is doing stuff like that against a Kenyon Green or a Kendrick Green or a Juice Scruggs playing out of position at guard. So I don't want to say I'm excited about Laken Tomlinson, but I want to watch a little bit of film of Laken Tomlinson from the 2023 Jets game, just because the vast majority of you are Texans fans, and it's fun to see some guys from the past. But also a little nugget that I just got by way of Sideline Sarah on Twitter, who puts out some great content. She curates great Texans content that might get you excited about things just flat out looking better on the Texans offensive line this year, no matter who the personnel ends up being. I'll take your questions, but I first want to just watch a few minutes of Laken Tomlinson from Zach Wilson's best game ever in the NFL, which happened to come versus the Houston Texans in 2023. So not last year with the Seahawks, but 2 years ago when Laken Tomlinson was with the New York Football Jets. Here we go. Okay, this one, he's going to be picking up a blitz, and this isn't anything magnificent, but it's kind of representative from what I saw of him. Blake Cashman, number 53, is going to blitz, and again, nothing spectacular, but steps down to help with the defensive tackle, keeps his shoulders open, takes care of Cashman. Cashman does a good job, but Zach Wilson, is that kind of day for Zach Wilson. Career day, great. This time versus Khalil Davis, going to see a really nice reach block. And Tomlinson's not the most athletic guy in the world, but I was impressed with the quicks here. Just, boop. I had to watch that. He falls off there, but still. The quickness was impressive. Maybe he outdid himself in working that hard to get out there that fast. Left guard. This one's going to be zone blocking to the left. Tomlinson's going to work with the center from the defensive tackle up to a linebacker. And something he does really well and consistently, getting an actual good shove on the defensive tackle so the center can overtake him. Texans offensive linemen at times have looked kind of haphazard and lazy on reps like this. Tomlinson he's a technician. He does things the right way. This is going to be a combo block between the guard and the center. They're going to want to drive block that defensive tackle up into the lap of the backer, and then one of them will scrape off on the backer. Back flat, see those legs churning like he's on the 7-man sled. My old high school coach, Matt Mackey, used to run us into the ground with. This is going to be a pass protection versus Malik Collins. He battled with Malik Collins for much of the day, but he attacks him with a short set. Malik gets some separation there, but it was a good job by Tomlinson recovering. He's pulling here, but something I like as a former defensive tackle is that I couldn't necessarily call out or tell that he was pulling immediately. He's very consistent with that stance of his, kind of a low, squatty, legs wide stance, but he does a good job moving athletically from that stance. And nothing magical here, but gets out, identifies who he's supposed to block, and does it with the right angle and positioning. It sounds simple enough, delivers a nice blow. It's something that Texans offensive linemen have struggled with, but good job against Will Anderson there. This next one is let's watch Jonathan Grenard get paid. Remember, this is 2023. He would go to Minnesota in free agency. And we're going to see some of that quickness on a reach block again, which should be good, but we've seen that Tomlinson fell off of one earlier. So I like the initial quickness. but he's not always capable of sustaining the block afterwards. There's another one just in pass protection. I thought he had a good rep versus Malik Collins. Malik made him work. Malik gets his. We'll see. Okay, not a fan of this next one. This is something that these days is called a chop block. Can't go low while you're engaged with somebody else high. I am, for one, a fan of this safety initiative. But at the very least, if you're going to go dirty, go effectively dirty. This one's going to be a one-on-one rep in pass protection versus Malik Collins. This is what I liked about it. Malik Collins drops off into coverage, and you're gonna see Tomlinson go help the center. And look, we all love it when we see an offensive lineman just clear out some other dude from the side. But what we saw last year was offensive linemen trying to be big badasses, blindsiding somebody, but meanwhile a looper or somebody like Malik Collins at times will decide to re-enter the rush. And this is just kind of intelligent, stable, technically sound play that you get out of Tomlinson. This one's just fun because as a reminder to why Mekhi Becton had a lot more success playing guard in Philadelphia than he had playing tackle, and also why Jonathan Grenard got paid. Oh, Zach Wilson. Ooh. And then I promised you more Malik Collins. This is a good rep by Malik Collins. Shimmies, fakes inside. Oh, Quinnen Williams. And Tomlinson let up quite a few sacks last year. I'm not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. He's not a perfect player. He's way better than a lot of the left guards the Texans have had these last couple years. And then one more instance here of just want to be sure I show you the downsides as well as the upside. You see this initial quickness. He's going to be going to his left versus Derek Rivers. And actually should, at that point, look like he should be having a pretty good rep, but Rivers, to his credit, just keeps trucking upfield. Yeah, so, and that I kind of just picked those at random in sequence and showed some of the things he does well. He's not a perfect pass protector, but compared to Kenyon Green last year especially, he's way, way better. I mean, lots of people are better than the way Kenyon Green performed last year. The thing that I like most, honestly, about him and as far as Ed Ingram is, at the very least, they've been very durable and solid. If they can have some kind of consistency. And to build off of something that Brandon said here, Brandon, honestly, a few months from now, Laken Tomlinson and Ed Ingram will be as irrelevant as Jeff Okudah and CJ Henderson. I do hope so, if that means that they've drafted well. Or I think maybe I'm guessing at least one of those guys will still be playing, but I think there's as good a chance as there's ever been that they take an offensive lineman in the first round and perhaps they trade up. I think if you look at the way Nick and a lot of GMs operate, you want to go into the draft not overly desperate at any particular position, because as coaches have said, I think the first person I heard say this was Brian Billick, which is desperation is a horrible judge of talent. So if you go into the draft desperate and you start reaching for guys just because you so desperately need an offensive lineman, then that's what you end up getting. So I think right now Nick's trying to fill in all the blanks and take guys that, hey, if they have to start, and Ed Ingram, for his faults and for the reasons he got benched last year, for all of that, he was starting on what was a good offense. They were a good offense with Ed Ingram in there. They just wanted to upgrade to Dalton Reisner at that point. So I'm not trying to act like I'm not trying to look. I mean, some of the thumbnails I've seen about how this was just a steal and a brilliant signing and everything, I think there's a smart thing you do to try to fill in some of the gaps. And when it comes to the way the offensive line performed over the last couple of years, the most alarming thing was just the degradation in fundamentals. And Laken Tomlinson is a fundamentally sound football player. As a veteran player, if they do draft a rookie guard, I think he's a really good mentor for somebody like that. The one thing that I saw like 10 minutes before I came on, and this is from Sideline Sarah, this is going to involve a COVID take from Rob Ninkovich. I will say in advance, I don't give a single damn what any of you feel about COVID or the COVID restrictions or vaccinations or anything. All I care is about Rob Ninkovich's the actual opinion of Cole Popovich, the football coach. Because remember, Rob Ninkovich was there when Cole Popovich was an assistant offensive line coach and then an offensive line coach for the Patriots. So this is Ninkovich with a COVID take, but I'm not concerned. I don't care. I have amnesty for anybody's COVID takes for or against vaccines. I don't give a damn. This is all about football here.
They had a really good coach. They had a great coach in Cole Popovich, who they wouldn't bring back because he didn't get a COVID shot.
Yeah, no.
Right?
Yeah.
So they would have had a great coach.
He was with Scarnecchia for a long time.
Nobody's talking about that. The radio doesn't talk about that. Nobody says.
Radio don't talk about a lot of stuff.
We had a great coach here, but we mandated everyone get a COVID shot, so he personally didn't feel comfortable with it, so we fired him.
There you go. So there was we had talked about, hey, we've talked about it on the radio, man. I don't know who Ninkovich's co-host is there, but don't go casting aspersions at all radio hosts. We're not all hot take ass jerk a-holes, whatever. So, yeah, we have talked about this because we didn't really know the circumstances other than that Cole Popovich didn't want to get a vaccine. So he coached high school for a year in somewhere in New England. But this, that, the other, regardless of anything with the COVID, Ninkovich seemed pretty put out that they didn't have Cole Popovich there and that he was a really good offensive line coach. I know many of you have reservations about Cole Popovich because, hey, he was on the staff last year. How come he couldn't fix anything? And I know I've told this story multiple times. I'll say it really quickly. I have had multiple instances in the NFL where an assistant coach was not as good as he could have been because the coordinator was inept, or assistant position coaches that could not kind of coach the way they wanted to coach because the head assistant coach ran things differently. There's just only so much you can do as an assistant position coach. You got to just do what you're told, coach what you're being told. So there does seem to be people that are pretty positive on Cole Popovich. Apparently he had an opportunity to leave 2 off seasons ago, and he decided to stay with the Texans. I think part of that probably because Chris Strausser had been contemplating retirement, so he may have saw his opportunity here. So I'm saying at this point, relatively optimistic about Cole Popovich. Nick Caley, we just don't know until we see it. But steady play across the board is better than anything we saw last year. And whether you love Laramie Tunsil or hate him or anywhere in between, he was making $20 million a year, and you need 5 offensive linemen. So I think there's still going to be a trade somewhere along the way. I'm guessing there's going to be a draft pick or two. And I know somebody who pointed out our paucity of draft picks. It's not a matter of like using every draft pick on an offensive lineman, but in terms of trading up within the first round or jockeying around, they've got future picks obviously that they can use in trade. So not worried about all that much of that. Honest question, Seth, as an ex-player, who is it that approaches Titus Howard about his weight or keeps him accountable? Is it solely up to him? It depends, and I think with Titus, Titus took a turn last year in just him embracing the role of left guard. And in the past, when he's been asked to do that, he made it known to the world how grudgingly he was doing it. I think that he did do the right team thing, and he did some good things as a guard. He still struggled because it's not his natural position. And some people have speculated perhaps that Titus was a bad influence, Laramie was a bad influence on Titus because Laramie operates a certain way and Titus wanted to just be anything and everything that Laramie was. I don't know. I'm not overly worried about that. I think having a different the biggest thing I would hope is that because Nick Caley has been a tight ends coach and has been involved in run blocking and pass protection, and I think is much more of just, frankly, a blue-collar guy in a lot of ways than Bobby Slowick was. Bobby Slowick, as much as I think he's a really, really bright guy, you guys know that I'd always worried that he was a little bit of a whiteboard warrior, and that when it came to actually coaching the nuts and bolts of things, that there was something missing there, and that sometimes everything that looks great on the whiteboard, when it comes time to seeing how it actually plays out with real human beings, he felt like maybe he's just a little too green for the position he was in, whereas Nick Caley's the opposite. I think Nick Caley is very much a guy that's all about the fundamentals and everything else like that. So hopefully it's something as simple as that. Ryan Kelly is elsewhere. I can't remember where he went. Did he go to Minnesota? Yeah, Minnesota. Hold on, I'll fact check myself real quick. The Kevin Ziegler, who went to, he went to, both Will Fries and Ryan Kelly went to Minnesota. So Minnesota's having kind of the offseason on the offensive line that a lot of Texans fans, myself included, hope the Texans would have. I would hope they had gone out and just go find some steady veteran players. Kevin Zeitler, not Ziegler, who went to Tennessee on like a 1-year, $9 million deal. I was interested in that. I think Laken Tomlinson is a muted version of getting that, but Zeitler was one of the better offensive guards in the league last year on a 1-year deal. So the Vikings are, as they say, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So at the very least, they've weakened the Colts somewhat. Tejano Day at the rodeo, good. Are the new guards taking spots, or are we attacking them heavy in the draft? I think that they're potential starters. I don't think anything is etched in stone right now. I think you're going to see a genuine competition at center between Jarrett Patterson and Juice Scruggs. And I was optimistic about some things I saw from Jarrett Patterson. I'm really intrigued to see how it is with coaching and an offensive coordinator change and tailoring the offense to the strengths of the players. That there's more advancement than might feel possible at this point on the offensive line just by playing fundamentally sound football. I still think Laken and Ingram to see how Caley and Popovich coach an old vet and a young struggling guy to see if they can turn trash into treasure. Yep, that's the hope, man. So thanks for watching, everybody. Please like if you haven't already, subscribe, share with a friend, and I keep wanting to get into the draft, but then they sign a Laken Tomlinson, and we'll keep talking about the draft. I did a Tyler Booker the other day. We've done the defensive tag Kenneth Grant before. We'll start looking at more of these beefier guys.